Everyone, Joe Waxman here, the mediocre astrologer. Meh, he's okay. Um, guys, today I want to look at the astrology of fighting or fighters. And yeah, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, share, and leave a comment down below, something relevant. And this list isn't as long as some of the others because it's kind of hard to find fighters with good birth times. So that was something I struggled with. But these are all different kinds of fighters. Even I think I even included some fun ones. Get a look at that. But all right. So Muhammad Ali's first. So these are obviously all these are going to be boxers, MMA fighters, and I included some movie stars because they did train. Certain ones did train in martial arts. They were real life fighters, and they went in the movies. And then I included also at least one pro wrestler, maybe two, um, because they're still fighters, even if it's kind of fake. It's like fake fighting, but whatever. Any case, Muhammad Ali. Alrighty. Leo ascendant with Chiron and Pluto in the first. Well, in the 12th, moving into the first. Chiron's actually not too far from the ascendant. And guys, again, I know they call it the wounded healer, but astrology doesn't actually work like that. It doesn't just because you call something doesn't mean that that's the actual literal effect that it has on the person. Chiron makes things weird, and weirdness can mean injuries, right? It can mean wounds, but it causes subtle, weird, strange deformities. But anyway, this is in the 12th. We don't really see much weirdness with Muhammad Ali. Maybe as he gets older, I think he got like a little like brain damage, but that's kind of what happens in boxing. Any case, First Lord's son in Capricorn in the sixth house. That's very we're gonna see a lot of sixth house stuff, a lot of retrogrades, a lot of Mars, Saturn type things. Yeah. Scorpio, obviously, eighth house, Pluto, yeah, but so sixth house, very much so. And then we get a Mars and Saturn in the same sign, but more Saturn, Uranus, kind of explosivity, in the 10th house in Taurus. Mars in Taurus is not doesn't have a lot of dignity, but it's kind of like a bull in a china shop. It when it fights, it's very, very stubborn, and it like hits really hard. There's also that square between Mars and Pluto that's very intense. Really drives the person to achieve. Mars is our action, and when it's square Pluto, there's just that intense kind of obsessiveness around physicality. Squares we'll also see a lot of, generally speaking. Saturn, square Venus. He has a lot of retrogrades. Jupiter, Uranus, Saturn, Venus, Neptune, the nodes, obviously. Chiron and Pluto. And with this many retrogrades, you can I've talked about Muhammad Ali before, but you can see in all his protests, like he protested the war, he was always fighting people. I mean, that was his career, to fight. Chiron square the nodes, a lot of squares, a lot of retrogrades, sixth house activity. This is really going to create somebody who wants to fight. Yeah. Okay. I think that's it. Yeah, squares to Saturn, squares to Mars, retrograde, sixth house. Okay, let's keep going. Now, let me just check the dignities here. Yeah, look at all these retros, tons of retrogrades. Saturn and Venus mutual reception. That's going to be important. Saturn, Venus, yeah. Even they're square and they're by sign, by degree. Excuse me. Just gotta scratch myself. That is 7th and 10th Lord interchange, meaning a career out of personal one-on-one relationships, which is what boxing is. So interesting. Jackie Chan. So I did include some movie stars. because number one, there just wasn't like, it's not that there are not enough fighters. There are not enough fighters who have accurate birth times. Is really what it is, right? Boxers, MMA fighters, martial artists, things like that. But Jackie Chan is a martial artist, like, and he's very skilled, very talented. He's got Moon, Jupiter in Gemini, first house, right? And that's very obvious because when you watch him act, he's so goofy, right? That's the Gemini, that's the Moon in Gemini specifically, right? But Jupiter and Gemini as well. I guess Jupiter can be very physical too, right? So Jupiter and Gemini can be very agile, especially in the first house. Sun in Aries, exalted Sun in Aries, Venus in Taurus. These are all very good. See, Mercury in Pisces. That's in poor dignity, his ascendant lord, which is fascinating. But Jupiter's in Gemini. That's actually a mutual reception, and that's why it makes it more interesting. By square. That's very cool. Saturn's in Scorpio in the 6th house, and that's going to be very fighty. Mars in Sag in the 8th, also, and then so a lot of 9th house stuff. North Node, not a lot, but North Node Chiron, so like adventurous and whatnot. South Node Uranus in the 3rd. Okay, so that is actually lightning fast hand speed. Cancer also, it plays a prominent role for fighters because Cancer is the crab and it has the shell, right? So Cancers are actually very tough. Right? But yeah, this is lightning fast hand speed because it's third lord in the 1st in Gemini. So like just very, very quick. But he's not like, he's obviously very quick, right? Very good martial artist. Very mutable, right? Some cardinal and fixed, but very mutable. But also very the Sun's in Aries in the 11th house. Ascendant Lord's on the 11th cusp. So, and then Venus is in the 12th. So this is leaning in more towards show business, obviously, rather than serious fighting. But MC in the 6th, MC Lord Saturn in the 6th in Scorpio, retrograde. That's very fighty. So Jupiter, Ascendant Lord and 11th Lord, mutual reception. That's popularity. When 11th Lord deals with popularity, it can be like groups, networks, internet technology. But this Ascendant Lord Jupiter mutual reception deals with the sort of 11th Lord. So I think it has to do with one of the things it can do with is popularity. Makes him more popular having this combination, which he is. He's very likable. All right. Venus. I'm looking at this Venus Saturn opposition. This Saturn would be harmed by the Venus because Venus doesn't do well in this sign. I don't know the relevance to that right now. That's the 6th Lord. Interesting. Definitely gonna have some health problems here. Broken bones, perhaps. Oh, Mars and Sag. He does his own stunts in the 8th house, right? So, yeah, that's that. Very adventurous physically. In any case, let's keep going. Well, let me just check. Yeah, Jupiter, Mercury. Okay. Let's go to Jack Dempsey. Jack Dempsey is an old boxer. I didn't include the write-up, but there's a fish named after him also. Cichlid, a fighting fish. So anyway, Cancer ascendant, right? Remember what I said about Cancer, like they have the crab shell with Sun, Mercury, Jupiter, and Moon. That's actually really, really strong for his physicality, for his body. And domicile, so Moon, Jupiter, especially, but Mercury also conjunct the ascendant or in the 1st house is very excellent. So 1st Lord in the 1st house, very strong physicality. Then we got Saturn and Uranus in Scorpio. Scorpio, remember, the heavyweight champ. 5th house for entertainment. Right. Jupiter is actually the 6th lord. That's in the 1st house together with the ascendant lord. Right. Mars and Venus in Leo. That's always really good. That's for physicality, for strength, physical strength. Mars and Venus together, they support each other. And what else? I mean, Pluto, Neptune in the 12th and Gemini. Well, perhaps because Gemini, this is going to add a bit of strategic planning to his boxing, because they bring in the intellect and the kind of secret, hidden, subconscious realm, psychology, things of that nature. But in any case, primarily we see a lot just right here. But the Saturn, Uranus in Scorpio on the 6th also, it's going to play into it. And then Uranus, Neptune's in conjunct. Uranus, Neptune, and then Neptune square the nodes. So there's something about this Neptune that's going to play an important role. Neptune actually is a co-ruler of MCN and dispositor of the North Node in the 12th. So something very psychological, kind of perhaps even intuitive about the way he boxed. All right. Sun square Chiron, that's going to influence his, it's going to make him a little weird. It's going to make him a little weird. All right. Okay. That's pretty much it. All right. Let's keep going. George Foreman, of the Foreman Grill fame. That's what he's famous for. Not from boxing, from making Foreman Grill. All right. Saturn on the ascendant in Virgo, retrograde. Right. So that's very fighty right there. Mercury right conjunct the 7th house cusp. Right. It's actually this line here, or 6th house cusp. Mars and Mercury. So Mars, planet of physicality, and Mercury, ascendant lord. Right. So that's the body. Mars and the body together on the 6th house cusp. Perfect for boxing. And then Sun, Jupiter, and Capricorn. Capricorn is very tough as well. Right. Very physical, earthy. South node Scorpio. Moon and Gemini conjunct the MC. Moon's 11th. I mean, that probably makes it more popular, right? Uranus retrograde opposite Venus in Sag. That's interesting. Dignities are fine on either side for these guys, so it's not harmful opposition. Venus is ruling the 9th and the 2nd. This could deal with luck and money, sudden like a sudden win or sudden loss, sudden change of fortune, something like that, because 9th ruler and the 2nd wealth as well. Uranus sudden retrograde. It's not going to go the way people think. Anyway, George Foreman. Yeah, Pluto on the 12th, not an easy combination for anyone. I have Pluto on the 12th. Pluto on the 12th definitely has you becoming obsessed with things not of this earth, which not very healthy for being on this earth. I mean, good for spirituality, right? Anyway. Yeah, a lot of it's right here in the 6th house. What, Capricorn, Sun, and Saturn, Virgo, obviously. Now this is interesting. Anyway, Moon opposite Chiron. That's also very interesting. Shows very strange relationships he has, and that internally he's also quite strange. More than anything, Chiron is strangeness. So Mercury, Saturn, mutual reception. You know, people always think it's wounds, but it's not. There can be wounds, but that's a result of its weirdness, strangeness. Wait, what was the mutual reception? It was Mercury, Saturn. Yeah, Mercury, Saturn. Even by degree, that's in conjunct. Oh, so that's sixth and first and sixth. That's why. That's huge. First Lord, sixth Lord, mutual reception. For sure. That's that's definitely going to be somebody who fights or something like that. Some sixth house related. Marvin Hagler, I copied his blurb. He's a boxer. All right. American professional boxer and film actor, competed in boxing from 1973 to 1987. He reigned as undisputed champion of the middleweight division from 1980 to 1987, defeating 10 opponents, all but one by knockout, and making 12 successful defenses of that title. Hagler also holds the highest knockout percentage of all undisputed middleweight champions at 78%. Anyway, it just keeps going on. Marvelous Marvin Hagler. Marvelous Marvin Hagler. All right. All right. So Taurus ascendant with Venus in Gemini, conjunct Jupiter in Gemini. Venus is also the sixth house lord. So Jupiter is expanding that. Gemini is making him very agile and unpredictable. Mercury is also in Gemini. Sun's in Gemini. Very Gemini, right? The one thing about Gemini, you're never going to predict their next move. You won't do it. They'll be here. You think they're going to be here, they're going to be there. You think they're going to be there, they're going to be here. They're going to be everywhere. Right? They're going to be all over the place. South Node Uranus in Cancer. This was the same as it's a Jackie Chan, I think. Third house. Gemini already ruling the hands, right? For boxer. South Node Uranus, third house, hands. Right? Venus, sixth lord in Gemini. Jupiter in Gemini. And then we got a lot of Capricorn, Mars in Capricorn, where it's exalted. North Node conjunct Mars. Mars is stationary in Capricorn in the ninth house. I mean, ninth house for a lot of things, but yeah, fortune, good luck. It's a very lucky house. It's a prosperous house. Moon in the 10th. Moon is ruling the third lord in the 10th. Saturn is the MC. Saturn's in the 6th. MC Lord in Scorpio in the 6th. The sign of the champ in retrograde. Moon square Saturn, but Saturn rules Aquarius, so it's co-ruler, so that's not a difficult. I mean, a square is still going to be difficult, but that kind of resolves itself. And the moon is the third lord, so it's tying into that. So interesting, very interesting. Pluto has a contact with Mars. It's a sesquisquare, so again, that's going to be very, very physical drive, physically driven. And this Mars is stationary. It's exalted in the ninth house, conjunct the North Node. He's extremely Martian, right? Mars is the 12th lord and the 7th lord, but it's occupying most of the 6th house. Jupiter's the 8th lord plus 6th lord in the second, in Gemini. Yeah. Seeing a stationary planet is always very exciting because that's going to be the main driving force of the chart. The strongest planet generally will guide the chart, or the strongest area, where the place of the chart that has the most gravity pulls energy towards it, that's going to really lead the chart. So like often people are talking about stelliums, but it can be a stationary planet alone, or it can be a planet in really good dignity with really good aspects. Mars and Saturn, mutual reception. Yeah. Saturn and Mars is sign, Mars and Saturn sign. So, and that's 9th and 10th, and in the 6th house, but 7th lord. So interesting. Hulk Hogan, I included because out of all the 80s professional wrestlers, Hulk Hogan was the best. He was the champ. He was considered the favorite among for the crowd. Of course, he's also an actor, and wrestling is fake. So, like, let's get that out of the way. We all know that, but it was still a sport. It was still entertainment, and they still risked injury because the hits were real. They just weren't as they were staged, but it was part real too, right? Wrestlers could get injured, and they were athletes and they were fighters. So South Node, Mars, Sun, Pluto exactly conjunct the ascendant in Leo, all in Leo, Sun in Leo, Sun in domicile, ascendant Lord conjunct Pluto, ascendant Lord conjunct Mars, ascendant Lord conjunct the ascendant from the 12th. And the 12th would explain acting, because once you get in the 12th house, you're in the land of make-believe, right? Fantasy. So that's where that comes from. A lot of creativity. Leo loves to be seen and heard. Leo is very creative and loves to be in the spotlight. Mercury conjunct Uranus. It's going to make a very active mind. That's on the 12th house cusp. In Cancer, Venus in Cancer, Jupiter in Gemini. Jupiter in Gemini, again, for that, for a boxer, for a fighter, for a wrestler, that's going to be excellent because Gemini is very quick, right? I mean, Jupiter and Sag would be great too, don't get me wrong. But Jupiter and Gemini is going to be very unpredictable and good for this sort of thing. Saturn's the 6th lord. That's in the 3rd house. 6th and the 3rd, you'll see often with fighters, because 6th is the fight, 3rd is the hands. Bring the fight to the hands, unless they're really like a foot guy, leg guy, you'll see something different. Legs, you could see 9th house, like thighs, Sag. Feet, 12th house. North node in the 6th house. Neptune is actually a co-rule of the 8th house, so 6th and 8th coming together in the 3rd. That's very strong. Jupiter would be the 8th in Gemini in the 11th. Popularity. He was very popular. You need that 11th house or 11th house lord for popularity. Moon in Virgo in the 1st. That's good for expression, right? He was very expressive. So yeah, Hulk Hogan. Let's see here. Dignities. Everything's pretty Chiron and the nodes and anything retro. He's pretty boring, basically. Pretty boring person. Chiron retro really represents his uniqueness. Here's Chiron retro conjunct. Well, it's in the 5th, but moving to the 6th house. And so Chiron's that weirdness definitely gives him that unique personality. There's a Moon Mercury. Moon Mercury mutual reception. I didn't even see that. So that's 2nd lord and 12th. 2nd and 12th. So money from acting. Definitely. I mean, he was an actor as a wrestler, but I think he also starred in some movies. Anyway, Bruce Lee. Sag ascendant with Sun on the ascendant, also similar to Hulk Hogan, but in Leo, Hulk Hogan had it, and Pluto on the ascendant. But the most obvious aspect of Bruce Lee's chart is this Mars and Scorpio square Pluto and Leo, exact. And Chiron and Venus also, but that's a little different. Chiron square Venus actually makes me think of his wife. His wife was a little weird. but for him, it's unusual, right? And that's the Venus square Chiron aspect. But this Mars in Scorpio, square Pluto in Leo, such drive, right? Pluto for the obsession, the Leo, the pride, the ego, and then Mars for the physicality and Scorpio domicile, and then Moon and Mercury and Venus. Venus ruling the sixth lord conjunct Mars, Mars and Venus conjunct, a powerful combination for physicality. Mars Venus conjunct can create great physical body. Jupiter is basically conjunct the sixth house cusp, along with Saturn. Saturn is the second and third lord, so third in the sixth, right? Instead of sixth in the third, third's in the sixth. Along with Uranus, and these are retrograde. Pluto's retrograde, Chiron's retrograde, the nodes are retrograde. Saturn has an inconjunct to the north node, and basically opposition to Mars. Mars is opposite the ascendant lord, and a little bit wide Saturn. Saturn is opposite Moon. So there's a lot going on here. Jupiter is the ascendant lord, and so Mars, this is actually very dangerous. This is why one reason why he did not live a long life. Mars in Scorpio is opposite his ascendant lord. It's a very strong Mars, and that's not him. He's right here. Jupiter and Taurus conjunct Saturn, right? So very, very disciplined. Now in the sixth house with the second and third lord, money and hands or intellect, but in this case, hands. Him, Jupiter. Also fourth lord, Jupiter. So very physical. Opposite this really, really intense Mars square Pluto, right? And then Jupiter also square this Pluto. So that's very harmful because Jupiter is the ascendant lord. So you always have to look to the ascendant lord. You also have to look to the sun. Sun trine Pluto. Saturn opposite Moon is bad. That's going to be very bad for mental health. This is bad for mental health. This is bad for his enemies. This is bad for anyone who's Moon. Well, Moon's eighth lord. Because Moon is vulnerable here, while Mars is super strong. Venus also is vulnerable here. So he's going to be a bit abusive to anyone who, gets in his way. Very tough. Very tough. But yeah, always look to the ascendant lord to see what's going on there. If there's difficult oppositions. But Mars opposite Saturn also it's violent. It's violent. Mars Saturn opposition, because Mars is going to harm this Jupiter, but Saturn is just going to be more fighting. Plus the square. There's a lot going on here. Very aggressive chart for sure. But yeah, that's so MC Lord Mercury in Scorpio in the 12th, also for movies, right? Very strong 12th house. Okay, check the dignities. Pluto looks pretty slow, although it's hard to tell from here. Mars gets excellent points. Just want to check with Pluto. No, not very. All right, let's keep going. I don't have as many to do today, so it can take a little bit longer on each one, but anyway. All right, still very strong North Node conjunct the ascendant. So very strong. We're seeing a lot of strong first houses, which is the body, right? It's the body, it's the head, it's the physicality. So we should see that. Right away, I'm seeing this massive T square to Moon in Virgo. Moon in Virgo. Moon's ruling the eighth lord in the 10th whole sign house, 9th quadrant, but square the node, square the ascendant, south node, Mercury, Gemini, hands, and 7th house, opponent, right? Sun in the 6th house in Taurus, very stubborn, right? Retrogrades are going to be more fighty. They're just naturally going to be more fighty because you're going against, and that's what fighting is, right? Saturn's retrograde in Scorpio, 29 degrees. So let's see here. Jupiter's in Leo conjunct Pluto. Jupiter is the ascendant lord conjunct Pluto. So very, very driven, very tough, very obsessive, very plutonic, very strategic, very psychological. Ninth house, Leo. Mercury is the MC lord in Gemini. So Sun in the sixth. So, okay. The Mars, Chiron stationary. Wow. Chiron stationary. I'm including septiles. Still unsure exactly how they manifest, but I'm going to keep looking at them. Septiles are 7 divisions of the chart. And the reason that they're not used normally is because it's an outer 12 system. 7 does not divide into 12 evenly, right? So we only use the ones that fit into 12 easily. Like 1 fits everyone. 2, 3, 4, 6, and that's pretty much it. I mean, you can do other divisions, but those are the main ones. In any case, Mars and Jupiter are opposite. Mars and Pluto are even opposite. Mars is sesqui square. Venus. So Venus is the 6th lord. Sesqui square Mars in the 7th, moving to the 8th. Right. Uranus in the 8th. Uranus trine Saturn. So Mars is in the 3rd, right? So 3rd lord for hands, for boxing, along with Chiron. So Chiron stationary in Aquarius, it's going to be very weird, but very potent at the same time, right? So he's going to have a very unusual boxing style. And I have no idea. Like, somebody's going to have to confirm this. I've never seen I don't follow boxing. Like, I don't know. But judging by this, he's going to be very unique the way he moves his hands, right? And that's going to throw people off. Probably going to get him a lot of wins. Yeah, like I said, Mars opposite Jupiter, which is the ascendant lord, and Pluto, which is, that's we saw the square with Pluto. It's very obsessive, right? Jupiter is also very physical. Sun in the 6th. Moon's ruling the 8th, moving into the 10th. In any case, Saturn's the 3rd in Scorpio. 3rd lord Scorpio in the 12th. Also, South Node conjunct Mercury in the 7th exact shows that he's going to be very communicating with other people is going to be something that he's better at than anyone, because his South Node and Mercury in Gemini in the 7th exactly conjunct the descendant. And so he's going to be able to read people. He's going to be able to intellectually read people. He's going to be able to read his opponent very, very well. Square the moon, so it's still touching the moon. So it's like it's going really deep. Like, he really understands psychologically, internally, how to read his opponent. That's going to be very, very strong for him. Mercury is ruling the 7th and the MC. So, interesting. Mercury's retro and very slow. That Mercury is super duper potent. Yeah. A lot of retros. Chiron station, that's excellent. Mars, Saturn. I didn't even see that. Yeah, Mars, Saturn, mutual reception. That's 3rd, 12th. The way he moves his hands is going to have a very hidden quality to it. Like, you won't see it coming. You'll never see it coming because it's coming from the 12th house, the subconscious. It's just light. If something comes from the subconscious, it's not in the active mind. It's just like boom, knockout. Oh, how'd you do that? I have no idea. It just happened. That sort of thing. Like, I did not plan that. My subconscious mind I was in the zone. It took over. There was an opening. Before I could even register, I saw it. I took it. Bam, knocked them out. All right. Jet Li. Jet Li, awesome TV martial artist. not a real fighter in real life. Like, I don't know if he's ever done, but he's obviously trained in martial arts, right? And he's got actually same as Jackie Chan, Gemini ascendant with Moon. So Jackie Chan has the same thing, Moon on the ascendant. And so Moon, whenever Moon's on the ascendant, great for performance, because then their heart is on their sleeve. You see it right on their face. Like, they can't hide any emotion. So that's why it's wonderful for the television, for performance, for music, for stage, right? Anything like that. All right, Mercury's in Taurus, right in the 12th, along with Set with the Sun. So for acting, perfect. North Node in the 3rd for that hand movement, right? Mars and Leo in the 4th. That's good. Mars in conjunct Chiron, square Neptune. Fascinating. Chiron, like I always say, is very weird. But it's in Pisces, so that lends itself to the big screen. Neptune and Scorpio in the 6th. That for movie fighting, excellent, perfect, because Neptune's illusion, fantasy, delusion, right? Scorpio ruled by Mars, so Mars dignifying it, but Scorpio, the heavyweight champ, 6th house for that fighting, the fightiness of it, the willingness to fight. Pluto and Uranus in Virgo. The 4th, so let's see. Venus is the 6th lord. It's in Aries along with Jupiter. Jupiter's the 11th lord and the 7th lord. Saturn's in domicile Aquarius in the 10th, right? So that's very strong for his career. 10th lord in the 10th house is just public figure, fame, notoriety. But yeah, he's definitely like a movie fighter. Moon is ruling the third lord in Gemini in the 1st, right? So that's really that for skills of the hands, excellent for being known for the fast paced movement type thing. Also for legs, for feet, we get the 12th house activation. It's Mars ruling the 12th, Mars in the 4th, square Neptune, Chiron. Chiron lends itself well for movies because it's more dramatic. And everything on the big screen, you have to amp up. It has to be blown up. So Chiron magnifies the weirdness, the strangeness, the uniqueness. So it does do well in movies, I believe. Very much so. Check here. With the retro outer planets, retro nodes. Mars is slow. Saturn's very strong. 9th and 10th house. Jupiter's the 8th lord, conjunct Venus in Aries. That's very strong. 11th house. Popularity. All right. I think that's it. Yeah, I mean, there are multiple things going on here. Movies and action, both. Physicality, fighting. Joe Louis. I think I wrote a little, copied a little blurb about. No, I didn't. Joe Louis was a very early on fighter, boxer, champ. I feel like I should share a little bit. Just hold on. Okay, sorry about that. Joe Louis. Let's read. All right. Was a heavyweight boxing champion, so he's heavyweight. Nicknamed the Brown Bomber. He's considered to be one of the greatest champions in boxing history. Louis held the heavyweight title for over 11 years, more than anyone else before or after him, reporting 25 successful defenses of the title. In 2003, Ring Magazine ranked him number 1 on its list of 100 greatest punchers of all time. In 2005, he was named the greatest heavyweight of all time by the International Boxing Research Organization. He participated in 27 heavyweight championship fights, a record which still stands. Pretty good. I mean, damn. So this guy's the greatest, despite Muhammad Ali's claims. Well, some people say Muhammad Ali's the greatest. Anyway, boxer, great boxer, one of the greatest. Cancer ascendant, that cancer shell. Right? So Moon, bingo. This is a classic. Ascendant Lord in the seventh house, directly on the ascendant. He either wants to hurt people or help people. Considering that he's a boxer, he's hurting people. That's his whole thing, is to hurt people, right? Maybe at some point he turned it around and wanted to help people with his money, but while he was a boxer, he wanted to hurt people, right? South Node in Virgo in the third house, those hands, right? Virgo, that fight. I hope you understand this. If the first lord is in the seventh house, they always want to hurt people or help people. It doesn't matter what planet, because it's always going to be in poor dignity. So that poor dignity is going to define the relationships. All relationships are going to have a quality of poor dignity, which means, and this is him. So he is either contributing to that poor dignity or contributing to alleviating the poor dignity. See? Helping or hurting. Always. That's what it means. Sixth Lord in the eighth house, sixth Lord Jupiter in the eighth house with Uranus in Aquarius. So that's 6 in the 8th. That's a very good combination. That's the fight. The contender is becoming the champ. 6 in the 8th. Right? Fights go to here to die. And Uranus as well. Uranus is in good dignity in Aquarius. Uranus is lightning speed. North Node conjunct Chiron and Pisces. That's good for show business. Not sure really it helps him with boxing. Probably just makes him more unique. But the Pisces in the ninth house and the 10th, it's moving to the MC, so it's going to be good for career, popularity, things like that, notoriety, recognition. Jupiter is the sixth lord, and Jupiter is the sixth MC lord as well. So Jupiter is the sixth and MC lord in the eighth, and it's square the sun. So that is definitely a fighting combination. The sun is the second lord, but it's the sun. It's conjunct Mercury. Mercury's the 12th, and by this is the fourth lord. Sun is the third. So either third or fourth. Anyway, definitely the fourth, but maybe third. Between the two, that's the third. So Sun and Mercury would both share a third because the cusp seems to be in Leo, but really it's Mercury. Anyway, South Node, Mercury. Mercury square Jupiter and Uranus in between the two. Definitely going to add a lot of struggle, fight to his hands, right? If Mercury is the third lord, it's square Jupiter, which is Jupiter is the MC lord and sixth lord. So the fighting Uranus is just for like speed, lightning speed, really, to his hands. There's going to be that challenge to make himself lightning fast and big Jupiterian in regards to his fighting ability. All right, so we also Venus, Saturn, Pluto, and Gemini. Again, that agility from Gemini, and Saturn's ruling the 7th and 8th. Venus is ruling the 5th, I guess. Not really ruling 5th. Not really ruling the cusp. Anyway, Pluto. Yeah. So Jupiter and Moon. Those are the two big things. Jupiter square the sun. Saturn square Chiron. I don't know. Joe Louis. I don't know how that. It's gonna make something weird. Um, seventh and eighth. Weird relationships. In any case, not relevant. Now this guy has almost all his planets direct, which is amazing. But again, yeah, he's just has that need to hurt people or help people. And then there's the Mercury Venus mutual reception, which I did not catch. Good thing I saw that. So that's why I look at the dignities, because I don't always catch everything. Moon's way out of bounds. That's the ascendant lord. So that's interesting. Definitely shows some extreme physicality. Yeah, Venus, Mercury. So 12th, 11th. So that's very good for show business, for popularity as far as being a character on the screen, on stage. He does have Neptune in the first, so there's something very illusory about him. Maybe he's a good actor as well. I don't know. Let's keep going. Rocky Marciano. Rocky Marciano was heavyweight champion from 1952 to 1956. 43 knockouts, 88% knockout rate, remains the only heavyweight champion in boxing history to retire without a defeat or a draw in his professional career. Amazing. And Rocky is the inspiration for Rocky the movie. Rocky Marciano, I believe. So Grand Water Trine, first of all. With Pluto and Cancer in the 6th house. That is a very fighty combination square or trine. Jupiter in Scorpio in the 10th, also very fighty indeed. And then Mars and so strong 8th house stellium for the heavyweight champ Rocky. Mars, Venus in poor dignity, Sun in North Node, right opposite Uranus. So the opposition to Uranus shows that he's going to have to incorporate that lightning fast speed into his physicality. Mars conjunct Venus. Again, we see this. Mars conjunct Venus for that physicality. Mars conjunct Venus people they're either like the guys sometimes get super strong. They just develop great physicality, or they just exude a very strong physical, sexual, sensual aura to them. But if they want to develop that physicality, this is excellent because it's yin and yang. Venus, of course, not very strong here. But Venus is excellent in Pisces. So for that second lord, for the values, confidence, things like that, excellent. All right, so Mars is the MC lord. That's in the 8th. We're calling the 8th because it's the same whole sign and close to within 5 degrees of the cusp. That's 8th. That's 8th house. Neptune in the 7th in Leo. That'd be great for deceiving your opponent, right? You get out there also being deceived, but potentially he's on the upper hand of that, and he's deceiving his opponent, making them think things that are not true about him somehow, like he goes for the right, but actually he's coming with the left. I don't know. I'm not a boxer. Moon square Neptune, that's not great for his mental well-being, mental health, but I don't know anything about that. Let's see. Moon is the 6th lord along with the 7th lord. Moon is in Taurus conjunct the IC. That's a very great place for the moon. It was very happy here. Saturn. Saturn's the ascendant lord. Saturn is exalted in the 9th house. 9th house is, very lucky, obviously. Saturn is opposite Chiron. Ascendant lord opposite Chiron. Ascendant Lord in good dignity, opposite Chiron in poor dignity, where it would be. So there's some wound here, in fact, because Saturn does not do well in Aries. So this opposition is harming Chiron. So that's, I mean, I hope you understand how to see difficult aspects. If a planet is strong, it can harm a planet that it aspects where it is weak, right? So, but either by conjunction, opposition, square, in conjunction, that will happen. So Saturn's obviously weak in Aries, strong in Libra. So this Chiron's wounded. This Saturn's coming down on it in an opposition, really strong. So that's third. Third is hands. So I don't actually know how that manifests itself. Maybe he did wound his hands, but maybe this Chiron was not wounded, at least for long enough for him to just have very unusual way of boxing, a very unusual way of moving his hands. That could be. Plus the third, no, let's see. Mars is the third lord. Mars and Virgo. Mars is not in bad dignity. You know. And it's unaspected. So I don't know. Seems okay to me. However, Saturn is the ascendant lord, opposite Chiron, third. He did have a very beat up face. That's not unusual for boxers, but maybe that had something to do with it. Maybe that's how this opposition is manifesting. All right. Let's check the dignities. Uranus retro, everything else is direct. Chiron retro. Nodes are direct. Mercury Venus mutual reception. I did not notice that. Mercury Venus. That makes a lot of sense. Mercury the 8th, 9th. So the heavyweight champ is becoming lucky. Or I mean, there's many ways to interpret this. Obviously, philosophy can be going, occultism can be going into philosophy and religion, but 8th house, the fight, the dominating the others, is going into philosophy, high-mindedness, adventurous, but also luck and fortune. And Venus is also dispositing the moon, which is the 6th and 7th lord. And Venus is in the 4th. Venus is ruling the 4th cusp. So early on, early success. Jupiter conjunct the MC for success. Anyway, Jupiter in Scorpio for the heavyweight champ. Success. Conor McGregor. Everyone knows Conor McGregor. He's the MMA fighter. Very cocky, but very skilled and excellent fighter. Okay. He's got Jupiter and Taurus conjunct the ascendant in the 1st house. Ascendant Lord Venus in Gemini, in mutable, handy, skills of the hand, Gemini. So his ascendant Lord is going into Gemini. So his body is becoming very agile, very movable. It's also square the nodes, creating a lot of tension here. Venus is also ruling the 6th. Venus is the 6th lord. So for fighting, very strong. Now we have Mercury in the 3rd in Cancer with Chiron. Mercury, Chiron, Cancer in the 3rd. Now this does not, again, does not necessarily represent wounds, or it could mean wounding somebody else. maybe that's also because it's square Mars. So look, what does that mean? Maybe it's showing a wounded intellect. And because Conor McGregor, now I'm not saying this is true, but if somebody does have a learning disability, they're going to be more likely to go into something physical, especially with a Mars and Aries at 0 degrees. I mean, that's like root. shoot, that's tough. That's intense. That's strong, right? Mars is the exaltation lord of the MC, but it's ruling the 12th house and the 7th house, and it's in the 11th house. So that's a combination for popularity. He's very popular. He also has North Node in Pisces in the 11th. So for popularity, for screen fame, like, we don't know all the MMA fighters. We don't even know all the MMA champions, but everyone knows Conor McGregor. There's a reason for that. That would be ascendant and 11th house and 10th house. 10th, 11th, and ascendant, usually. Also, you could see descendant, but those are the areas that would make somebody more popular. Pluto's in Scorpio in the 6th. You know, for fighting, that's very, very strong. It's also retrograde. That's going to be even more fighty. Pluto's not very physical, but it's very psychological, and it's very obsessive. It's very desirous, and in Scorpio, deeply intense. It's in domicile. Retrograde, it's going to go against the grain. It's going to be a little bit more fighty. This is very aggressive, right? This is like the coach or the captain being like, you know, that voice in the back of your head being like, come on, do it, Connor, you can do it, you can. And he's like strategizing. He's like, all right, like, that guy's weak in the right chin or whatever. I don't know, right? But yeah, because Pluto's not very physical, but it's going to be very psychological and strategic. Mars in Aries, extremely physical. Mars is square. It's out of sign, but there's a square to Saturn and Uranus, and that's square to Chiron and Mercury. And the square is just going to push Mars harder. It's going to make Mars fight even more. Mars, he also has that the ascendant lord square to the nodes, right? Jupiter in conjunct Uranus. Jupiter's in the 1st, so that's going to have a very strong influence on his physicality to Uranus in conjunct. So Saturn as well. Excuse me. Jupiter has a very physical quality, especially Jupiter and Taurus. I mean, Jupiter in a lot of signs, but Jupiter and Taurus as well. The in conjunct to Uranus is going to force him to develop this kind of your lightning speed, along with a very Saturnian discipline. Right, they're both retrograde as well, along with Neptune, and that's a fighty combination. And not I don't know this one. I mean, this Neptune not, but this is, especially from the 8th house, and Jupiter is the 8th lord. Jupiter, and that actually dignifies Saturn and Uranus, because Jupiter rules Sag. Right. Sun and Moon in Cancer in the 4th house, conjunct the IC, I should say. 3rd whole sign house. So Mercury's in the 3rd. These are all in the 3rd whole sign house, but 4th quadrant. Cancer for that physical shell, the toughness. Cancer is very tough. Sun and Moon and Mercury and Chiron. You know, it's funny because I think about somebody like Conor McGregor, and then you go online and you hear jokes. I know it's a joke. I get it. Jokes are funny. Jokes are not meant to be taken seriously, but you hear a joke about like Cancer men having to sit down to go pee. And I'm wondering, like, if you told that joke to Conor McGregor, what would happen? He'd probably punch you in the face, and I'm not joking, because Conor McGregor has been arrested many times for physical violence. So, but Mars is violent in Cancer. So yeah, Mars square Mercury in the 3rd, boom. I mean, that Mars in Aries to this Cancer, Mercury Cancer, the 3rd house, you bet he's going to throw hands, because the Mars in Cancer it doesn't have any reservations. Mars in Cancer is just flat out violence whenever they feel like it. And that's what this square brings. Mars is connecting to Cancer, even though it's in Aries. Right? So that's what happens with aspects. They connect to the other sign, and that's kind of damaging. In fact, it damages his self-worth too. Like, he gets in trouble, he loses a lot of money because Mercury's 2nd lord, right? So that's really interesting. We got these retrogrades here. Venus is quite slow. Yeah, Moon and Mars in good dignity. All right. So Ascendant Lord in the 8th house. So that's fighting, right? It's like criminal. If the Ascendant, MC Lord's in the 8th, it's like fighting, banking, like working with resources, mines, metals, underground stuff, oil, astrology, occultism, or crime, or fighting, right? So, people criticize me for bringing that up with Barack Obama, but astrology is astrology. Maybe Barack Obama is an underground boxer. You never know. I doubt it, but maybe he's an underground banker. I doubt it. Maybe he's an underground criminal. That's more likely. Chuck Norris. Chuck Norris was a real life fighter, won championships in karate, and then also he was in movies and TV. Okay. Capricorn ascendant. So Capricorn. So it's really interesting. There's always these jokes about Chuck Norris being like the toughest guy on the planet, and he's got a Capricorn ascendant, right? There's nothing in there, but so Saturn's in Aries. His ascendant Lord Saturn is in Aries, along with South Node conjunct the IC. Saturn's not good in good dignity. So let's see. Let's check Mars. Mars in Taurus. No. So this Saturn. Well, what's really interesting is that it's conjunct out of sign Venus in Taurus domicile. So that's probably his saving grace, because Saturn as ascendant Lord in Aries, that's not good. That's not good for health. That's not good for vitality. It's not good for physical strength. It's actually physically weak. But this Venus is definitely going to help because it's in good dignity. Now, look, Mars is conjunct Uranus. So now Mars, the actual physicality is Mars, is conjunct Uranus, which is lightning speed. So physical speed in the 5th house. All right. Mercury is the 6th Lord in the 3rd house. Remember, 6th, 3rd, 4. Sorry. The hands, the fighting hands. Even though it's in Pisces, Sun is also in Pisces on the 3rd cusp. And then we have a whole 3rd house stellium, basically, with Moon and Jupiter in Aries and South Node. And then moving into the 4th house with these guys. But very strong 3rd house. Jupiter's the 3rd Lord in the 3rd house. 6th Lord in the 3rd, 3rd Lord in the 3rd. 1st in the 4th. 4th is very tough. It brings in that quality. Very strange relationships he's going to have. I don't know about them, but they will be strange. Chiron is square Jupiter, where Jupiter is 3rd and 7th. So again, if it's the 3rd Lord square Chiron in the 7th, that is going to make his hands very weird. Weird hands, you could say. Wounded hands or wounding hands? You be the judge. Did he have wounded hands? I don't think so. So we can't just be like, oh, 3rd Lord, conjunct Chiron or square Chiron, definitely a wound to your hands or intellect or the mind or your speech or communication. I don't think any of those things apply. I could be wrong. But Chiron is still present. Chiron not necessarily meaning wounds. Maybe it means wounds to other people. Maybe it means very unusual way of using his hands, right? Which is more likely. Which can sometimes translate into wounds, right? If your face is very unusual, it might look like a wound. You might say, well, that's a wound, right? But that happens. I think Sylvester Stallone had a weird thing with Chiron and his son, or Chiron and the Ascendant Lord, and he has the doctor like cut him on the mouth when he's going to. So he's got this weird way of speaking where like it's lopsided, like yo Adrian, like that's Chiron, but that's weird. It's not, weird can translate into wounds, but the essential quality is weirdness, strangeness, deformity. Pluto is square Venus and Saturn. So that's very, very intense for that drive, that physicality. Venus ruling the fifth lord for entertainment, right? Chuck Norris was also in movies, obviously. And MC, North Node conjunct the MC, basically from the ninth, Libra, Venus, square Pluto. So that violence, the fighting, the drive. Pluto's to squares to Pluto, just like obsessive drive, obsessive work, obsessive practice. Neptune, it has a is part of a septile with the south node, triseptile, biseptile to the ascendant. So for acting, you know, that's going to be very good. A septile, I think, is produces a very subtle quality. 7 is such a prime number. Not such a prime. It's a prime number. You don't get more or less prime number ish. There's no gradations of prime. You're either prime or not. So I'm just correcting myself. 7 is a prime number, but it's a very balanced number. It's a very peaceful number. So there's something a little bit hidden, but competent about number 7, because it's hidden because it's not divisible by 12, which is a system of 12. So it's going to be underspoken, but competent nonetheless. Understated, let's put it that way. Something subtle about it. Mercury's retro. Neptune, Pluto, Chiron nodes. Oh, yeah, I think that's everything. Really talks a lot about it. Mars Uranus for that lightning speed. Ascendant Lord conjunct Venus square Pluto for the real drive. And then the acting part, obviously, and the third Lord. Seventh Lord in the third, conjunct the sixth Lord for fighting. Sugar Ray Robinson, also a boxer. Similar name to Sugar Ray Leonard. Like, I mean, can these guys be a little more original? You need 2 professional Sugar Rays in boxing. I don't know. Right away, you can see Jupiter, Ascendant Lord, here in the 10th whole sign house, conjuncting the MC from the 9th, opposite Uranus, in a tight opposition, right? He is opposite. This is Jupiter. This is him. Jupiter. Ascendant Lord is always the person. So he's opposite Uranus. So he's fighting Uranus, which means he has to become like Uranus himself. Otherwise, he'll always be too slow, right? Uranus is lightning speed. So he is learning how he has to integrate this opposition into him. He's becoming lightning fast. Saturn is conjunct the MC in Virgo. Jupiter in Virgo. Virgo is a very fighty sign, right? Saturn is the second and third Lord. That's brilliant. And Uranus is in the third house. Third Lord conjunct the MC. In pretty good dignity. Virgo's fine. Not for Jupiter. Jupiter does not like Virgo. Jupiter likes Pisces, and so it's getting some Piscean energy right here. That's good. Moon's in Pisces, so that's helpful as well. Then we have a very strong 6th house as well with Mercury. Mercury's the MC Lord in Taurus with Sun, conjunct Sun, and then Mars in Taurus also in the 6th house. South Node conjunct Venus, where Venus is the 6th Lord in the 5th house. 6th in the 5th is entertainment. Fighting becomes entertaining, right? Fighting goes into entertainment. Fighting becomes a game. Venus is retrograde. So a lot of these retrogrades, again, Jupiter, Saturn, Venus. Jupiter is the ascendant Lord. That's going to make him rebellious naturally. going against the grain. Pluto in Cancer in the 8th house, the house of the heavyweight champ. Right. So that's all very appropriate. North Node in the 11th for popularity in Libra. Excellent. North Node in conjunct Moon would be difficult because that shows that it's not making him happy. Moon's in the 4th house. He'd rather just be at home in Pisces, being creative or being Piscean, whatever that means to him. But this is like the crowd right here. He's very popular. So anyway. Venus retro. Jupiter looks pretty slow. Let me check to see how slow it is. And Mars and Venus mutual reception. Mars Venus. There you get the Mars Venus again. Of course. Mars Venus, and that's really nice because they're close enough in degree. That's 5th and 6th, boxing and fighting and entertainment, fighting and games. Where did I say Jupiter? Yeah, one day. Jupiter is almost stationary. Wow. Jupiter. Okay, so that's why. It's in poor dignity, but it's almost stationary. So that's super potent. This Jupiter. This is his ascendant lord. So that's his physicality. You got the Mars Venus mutual reception, which is similar to the conjunction. They're trading energy. So for physicality, that's excellent. Right. A lot of 6th house activation there. MC Lord in the 6th, so definitely fighting. Dwayne the Rock Johnson. Okay, not much of a fighter, much more of an actor, but I needed the numbers for this, the charts, and he did do wrestling. So, in any case, Libra ascendant, Uranus conjunct, Uranus retrograde, from the 12th conjunct the ascendant. So he's trying to be very independent. Like you can see it, but Libra's so people pleasing, so this is conflicting. He wants to be very independent, but then at the same time, he's like, if somebody criticizes him, he'll back off him, but he'll, be forced to go back on that Libran middle ground. But secretly, he'll be very independent minded. It's also opposite Chiron and Mercury. Mercury in Aries in the 7th. So for shit talking, Mercury and Aries in the 7th. Well, it's conjunct these. It's in the 6th, right? In fact, but 6th quadrant. But for shit talking, that's very good. Right? Sun's in Taurus. That's in the 7th, but it's moving to the 8th. Saturn in the 8th. Right, for the heavyweight champ for fighting. Mars and Venus conjunct in Gemini, right? For that physicality. He's the Rock. He's big. He's strong. Gemini for the agility. You never know where he's going to be next, right? 9th house for luck, fortune, adventure. And South Node conjunct the IC in Cancer, for fame, for recognition, for notoriety. Obvious. Moon, Jupiter, and Capricorn, not a great combination because although it's in the 3rd house, which is probably good for, wrestling, fighting, but Moon, Jupiter, and Capricorn, that's Hitler's combination. But he had South Node. He also had Mercury in Taurus and Libra ascending with Uranus in this 12th. Wow, very similar to Hitler. But Hitler had other things going on. Hitler had Saturn conjunct the MC, so definitely wanted to be a dictator. He has Neptune opposite Saturn. Neptune opposite Saturn. Actually, Neptune's probably in better dignity in Sag than Gemini. But Neptune Saturn with Saturn, it's in the 8th. Saturn's ruling the 4th and 5th. It could be some issues with something missing from when he was a child, or drugs and alcohol. Being the 4th lord. money issues, especially when young. Any case, fighting, not fighting, but having some, I don't know. I'd have to look into that more to see what that's all about. But Saturn in the eighth can be pretty tough. I don't think it's doing too bad here. Venus is conjunct Mars. Venus is the ascendant lord, conjunct Mars. Mars, Mercury, mutual reception. So 7th and 9th. 7th and 9th switch. Also 12th. Yeah, it'll bring in some 12th flavor into this. Mercury ruling the 12th, Mars ruling the 7th, and the 2nd. Interesting. The 12th for acting. Jupiter. So 6th and the 3rd again. 6th lord in the 3rd house for fighting. MC, Lord Moon in the 3rd house for fighting. Yeah. All right. Pluto in the 12th. Interesting. It's a very destructive placement. I think that's it. Tremendous physicality. You can see there with the Mars and Venus. Venus ascendant lord. Let's check the dignities. Moon's a little out of bounds. Mars and Venus both out of bounds. So very extreme physicality. We know that. Jupiter retro. That's the 3rd lord and the 6th lord. So for fighting, it's going to be strong. All right. Mars and Mercury. He might be religious. Although, no, Jupiter's in Capricorn retrograde. So, no, he's not religious, but he is maybe philosophical. All right. Because in order to be religious, I found, well, Jupiter retrograde is almost always not religious, but Jupiter retrograde can be unorthodox religious or orthodox religious. Can be very religious. In more, they're not going to be normal religious. Let's put it that way. But in Capricorn, no, that's not religious. Ronda Rousey. This is the only lady I have on here. But Ronda Rousey is a hell of a fighter. She does those arm bars and probably broken a few arms. I don't know. She's tough woman, tough chica. Chiron in the 1st. Now if you go online, you show them this chart. Oh, you're so wounded. You're so wounded. You need a lot of healing because of Chiron. I think the other people who her opponents are probably going to be more wounded than her. So I'm just saying. Maybe she's doing the wounding. Maybe Chiron is doing the wounding more than it's wounded. Could be. But more likely it's just making her a bit weird. Right? She's a bit strange, so that's all. Let's see. Mercury's in Aquarius conjunct the MC, so that's her. So that's along with Sun. So a very strong desire for fame and recognition, and she'll probably likely get it. Moon and Jupiter, where Jupiter's in domicile together. That's really great. Conjunct the 11th house cusp makes her tremendously popular. Also, North Node conjunct Mars and Aries in the 11th house in groups and networks. That's very, very strong here. Very strong physicality. North Node conjunct Mars, especially Mars and Aries. Brilliant. Again, Pluto and Scorpio in the 6th. Very strong. Saturn and Uranus in Sag and Venus in Sag in the 7th. So, that makes me think of the arm bars, especially with Saturn, because you're not knocking somebody out when you're putting them in an armbar or any chokehold or anything like that. It's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. That's much more Saturnian, perhaps Jupiterian, but definitely Saturnian, because you're locking their joints. They're dealing with bones. You're dealing with structure, right? And she's doing it lightning fast with Uranus here. With Venus, let's see, Grace, I guess. Well, 12th house, creativity, beauty. It's not really ruling a cusp, but that would be the fifth whole sign. So something to do with Venus. Venus, she loves it. She just loves to, work with other people, be with other people, and put them in arm bars. that's kind of her thing. Yeah. That Pluto and Scorpio in the 6th house. That's badass. Mars ruling the 6th house. It's in Aries. It's North Node, conjunct North Node in the 11th. Right. So, yeah. Saturn's ruling the 8th. Saturn's in the 7th. So, like, getting real intimate with people, real quick. 8th Lord in the 7th. That's what that means. Moon is the 3rd Lord. Jupiter is the 7th and 11th. So, hands meeting with other people, opponents, and becoming very popular in Pisces. Pisces can fight too, guys. Pisces is not weak. Pisces is actually very strong. They're very, very big. Pisces expands things. So anything that's in Pisces can get very, very large, like an elephant or a whale. Those are both Piscean creatures, by the way. Whales and elephants. Pisces are the biggest, and therefore they're strong by their size, by their mass. Very massive. Jupiter's the thighs. Moon has a very physical quality to it as well. So this is making her bigger, enlarging her physicality. And she's a big girl. I don't mean that in a bad way. She's very strong. Steven Seagal, fierce competitor. You know him from the movies, but you may not know that he was a real life martial artist who actually won many tournaments and competitions. He's a real life baddie. Badass. And he's got Pluto and Leo conjunct the ascendant and the ego to match. I mean, talk about obsessive, talk about egotistical, talk about confidence. This guy is all of that. Psychological, intense. He's got those squinty eyes, right? And then he's just got these lightning fast hands. Well, of course, Saturn's in exalted right on the 3rd house cusp. Neptune and Moon are here. Saturn's ruling the 6th house. 6 in the 3rd, right? 6th Lord, 3rd house. Again and again and again, we're seeing this combination: 3rd and the 6th, 6th and the 3rd. Right? Mars is in Scorpio in the 4th. Venus is in Aries. Mercury's in Aries. Sun's in Aries. Jupiter is in Aries. And these are opposite this Libra. So we got Saturn opposite Mercury and Neptune opposite Sun. So that for acting. Also Moon conjunct Neptune. That's excellent. Right? For expression. Right? And then Jupiter opposite Moon. Let's see. The dignities are neutral, right? Moon is not exalted or debilitated or in detriment on either side. Neither is Jupiter. So this opposition is not harmful, not helpful. It just is. It's Moon opposite Jupiter. Let's see what houses are involved. 12th house for acting, Jupiter, 8th house, and 5th house. So that definitely relates to acting, entertainment, right? 5th house. 9th house is fortune, general good luck and whatnot. Venus is more in the 8th house. Venus is the 3rd Lord in the 8th house. That's interesting, right? The house of the champ. MC, here we go again. MC in 8th, right? He's either fighting or fighting in movies. right, as a career. And yeah, I mean, that's what that means. If you have 10th Lord in the 8th house and you're a politician and none of these things apply, there's some shady shit going on. 100%. So, Uranus is square Mercury and Saturn, right? And Saturn's on the 3rd cusp. Saturn's ruling the 6th house. So that's adding speed to his hands, Mercury and 3rd cusp. Mercury ruling the 11th and the 2nd. So money. So money is coming and going, I guess. Pluto's retrograde. Saturn's a lot of retrogrades. So not a very agreeable type person. Somebody, especially because he has a planet that's retrograde on the ascendant. The ascendant lord can't be retrograde because it's the sun. It's exalted. But planet on the ascendant, Pluto retrograde. Definitely going to show what kind of person he is. He's a person who does not go with the flow and is more likely to disagree about things and have alternate views about stuff. And he basically has a grand cardinal cross here with Chiron, Uranus, Saturn. So this Uranus opposition to Chiron, which is very common, is something strange, unique, weird, independent, potentially wounded. With Chiron on the 6th cusp, square Saturn and Mercury opposite Uranus, that definitely feels like a wound, some kind of wound that potentially driving the fight, right? Maybe in an attempt to resolve that woundedness. It's in Capricorn, so it's pretty tough. Yeah. He did get fat. And that could be, we could say Jupiter conjunct Sun. Because Sun is the ascendant lord. Pluto also very obsessive. All right, let's keep going. Yeah, I already looked at here. Mike Tyson. Now, Mike Tyson, I have to include, but Mike Tyson's time of birth is not known. So I shouldn't include his chart, but I did anyway. So this is not the houses, okay? And I know somebody will be like, well, Mike Tyson has Mars conjunct the MC. That's why. No, these are not the houses. So I'll say it again. These are not the houses. For anyone who is confused, these are not the houses. Because I know you have to say things multiple times because people don't get it. Right. This is not the ascendant. He's not a Virgo rising. We don't know when he's born. Okay, so if anyone's still confused, we don't know when he's born. These are not the houses. All right. Now that that's said, he does have that 60s conjunction, Uranus conjunct Pluto, not in the 12th house, not conjunct his ascendant. We don't know where his ascendant is. Okay. But he has Mars and Venus in the same sign in Gemini. So for that maneuverability, right? Like you never know where Mike Tyson, he moves. The dude can move. Like you don't know where he's all over, he's everywhere at once. Like that's Gemini. That's Mars, Saturn, Mars, Venus, Gemini. It's great for that physicality, right? Then he's got Sun conjunct Jupiter in Cancer. Jupiter's exalted in Cancer. Jupiter expands the body. Jupiter expands the sun. Cancer, very tough, right? There's a wide opposition to Chiron and Saturn. Chiron's stationary, conjunct Saturn. Now we don't know what house this is in, or what house Saturn's ruling, but we do know that he is a little weird, and he has a lisp, right? Does have South Node Neptune in Scorpio, which is very interesting. Scorpio being the sign of the heavyweight champ, and Neptune for this kind of glamour, this allure, this we tend to hype up certain people, right? Not all athletes are the same. Somebody can win the title and people don't really pay much attention to him. Somebody else like Mike Tyson wins the title, he's world famous, like he blows up, right? Like who's the world heavyweight champion right now? No freaking clue, right? But everybody knew Mike Tyson. Partially that's South Node Neptune. There could be other things too. Now we have to we'd have to see the whole chart, right? Mercury's in Leo, that helps. But yeah, so I just wanted to look at what we do know about his chart. There's a moon seems to be square Pluto and Uranus, so that's going to be mentally challenging for him. But there's a lot of really strong aspects in his chart that show very high talent. Mars is square Uranus and Pluto, a little wide, but still, that's going to be very drive, deeply driven, sort of like the Bruce Lee combination. There's a little difference. There's a little more mild. He's actually Mike Tyson's a little more mild than Bruce Lee, if you could believe that. That's true. Chiron station. That's amazing. He's mostly direct, except for Neptune retro. Neptune retrograde sort of like playing a bad guy on TV, especially in Scorpio. Which he does. He kind of has the bad guy look. Chiron station is just going to be something very weird, but very powerful about that. Very potent. Moon Jupiter. I didn't even see that. That's excellent because wow, because that's an inconjunct, but the degrees are almost perfect. And Moon dignifies it's a mutual reception and by degree, right? Inconjunct by degree. And that is 4th Lord and 11th Lord. So home, but it's actually Moon is in the 3rd house, right? 3rd house, but we're bringing the 4th cusp and 11th. So popularity and home, very popular at home. All right, Jean-Claude Van Damme. Really wish I had some more actual fighters, but I had to go with what I could get. Like, you wouldn't believe how frustrating it is trying to look up all these different fighters, and none of them have accurate birth times, right? But in any case, so we got Jean-Claude Van Damme. He did train in martial arts, right, to a very high degree, but then he went into acting. So Sun in the 1st house in Libra. Ascendant Lord Venus conjunct in the 2nd house in Scorpio, conjunct Mercury, and then Neptune. Neptune's more in the 1st, great for acting. Sun in the 1st, also excellent for acting. So Scorpio, Ascendant Lord in Scorpio, conjunct Mercury, and right, 3rd Lord in 3rd house, Jupiter. 6th Lord in 3rd house, right? It's the mark of the fighter, not the only one, but a big one. 6th Lord, 3rd house. 4th Lord, 3rd house, essentially. Saturn, Capricorn. Saturn directly opposite Mars. And this is a big one for fighting because this Mars is in Cancer. This is a unrestrained Mars. This is a Mars with all the vigor of Mars and Cancer do not lack energy. They're not wimpy Mars. Like a Mars in Libra might be a little wimpy. Mars in Cancer just doesn't have any self-control. It's violent. It's hypersexual. It just wants to F and fight, right? To keep it kosher. But anyway, but this is opposite Saturn, right? Mars dignifies in Capricorn, but Saturn also is undignified in Cancer. So this is something that is good and bad, but there could be some damage here towards other people. It's not really direct. It's more in the it's ninth quadrant, but 10th whole sign house. So the public, right? Fighting the public. Career for acting, so like that's excellent for acting. Mars is the 7th lord, so that's others, and the 2nd lord. So something about making money, resources, with that fighting. Saturn's 4th, 5th, entertainment. Yeah, so that's going into fighting people in movies, making money, entertainment, all that. Now Venus is square Uranus, and Venus is the ascendant lord. Venus is in Scorpio. So this Venus is going to have to become that speed. It's going to have to work hard to embrace that Uranian lightning fast physicality, because Uranus is the ascendant lord, so it's the body. So the body has to struggle to become very, very fast. It has to train with lightning speed and precision and accuracy and that lightning strike. North node Virgo, moon Virgo, Pluto Virgo. North node Pluto, becoming very obsessive about fighting Virgo, right? Health in general, but also it's moving into the 12th, 11th house, popularity, career success. The 12th house, acting. Mercury, 12th lord with the 1st lord, ascendant lord, in Scorpio. So acting, fighting, all that. South node Jupiter. No, we already talked about that. Ascendant, MC Lord, Moon in Virgo in the 12th. So acting, fighting. Alrighty. Let's see. Chiron's retro, the nodes are retro, everything else is direct. So he's really a go with the flow kind of guy. He doesn't have a chip on his shoulder. He's not really much of a fighter. He just likes, fighting people in a, not in a very serious way. He's not like a deep fighter. He's more like a pretend fighter, which is why he's an actor. Because he's just too easygoing. Right? He's not like Muhammad Ali, who wanted to fight the government as well as all his boxing opponents with all those retrogrades. Guys, that's it. I wish I had a few more to go over, but I don't. But anyway, there's definitely some strong patterns there with Mars, Saturn, actually Mars, Venus, a lot of times. I think Mars, Saturn as well. But 6th house, 3rd house, right? 6 in the 3rd, 3rd in the 6th. Mars, Pluto. So yeah, a lot of squares, retrogrades. These are all things, Virgo. These are all things that make a fighter. So book a reading with me. You can go to my website, macroastrology.com, or just email me directly, macrogoldmachine@yahoo.com. That's the direct way. And leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. And I hope you enjoy it. Mediocre astrologer signing off. All right. Thanks. Bye.